Hey, welcome back to Evil's Comics. I'm Evil Mike, and this is going to be my review on comics that were released on September 29th, 2021. It's going to be my part one. I'm going to start off the fun with Harley Quinn issue number 7 in the Fear State kind of storyline. It takes place I want to assume it's beneath Gotham while Harley and is down there with Miracle Molly, and Harley is kind of like on this side adventure. We do catch up with Keepsake after he tried to kidnap Harley Quinn before, recreating the whole like Ace Chemical Factory thing. We do see that he is using some kind of hypnotic gear, and he has formed, he calls it the Caucus of Corruption. It's like a new supervillain kind of a team, and he has like fake versions of different people. I can go off some of the names, but Blaine, Folophonist, Sage Swine, the Exclamation, Fellow Frigid, and Sword Lady. But basically, it's like his supervillain team. He has given them all kind of like different weapons and gear. And it's, while Fear State is going on, he's kind of like going off the fact that Gotham's kind of unprotected in that way. So he's going to try and run, his little game. We do have the scene where Hugo Strange kind of butts in and is kind of upset at first for not being included, and it's part of his game. He eventually, it's like reverse psychosis, but he's tricking Keepsake into going back after Harley Quinn, stating that he was fooled already twice. What kind of villain? But basically tricking him into going after Harley Quinn. I want to believe it's just to keep Keepsake busy, because we kind of see what Hugo Strange is up to. We do catch up with Harley. She's kind of doing this camping routine with her group, and they were supposed to be doing this reflection moment kind of thing, like therapy for the group, where they all kind of reflect on what's going on. And Harley is kind of the only one in the group that's having a problem really doing so, because so much stuff is going on, like the whole Keepsake thing. And at this point in the comic, they kind of catch you up to everything that's going on if you haven't been reading. But quickly after that, they kind of start hearing a noise over in the background, and it's this lady, and she's looking for her dog. Incidentally, the dog's name is Waffles, and it's a little pug. And so the group starts kind of, mainly Harley and Kevin, they all split up and they start looking for the pug. They do find Mr. Waffles, shown here, and we see like the fantasy version of him, what Harley sees him as an actual like waffle dog. Well, that's kind of like when they were picturing what he would look like, but they do eventually find Waffles in like a cave. And right after they find Waffles in the cave, they also find why he was in the cave. He was hiding from something, but they also, they find out quickly and shown on the cover what it was, and it's a big giant bear. After this, it's kind of this like, this run away from the bear type thing. They are not really equipped to fight a bear. They do jump back over to Gotham City and Fear State and the Magistrate and everything that's going on. And we do see that while this is going on, Hugo Strange is dressing up as the Bat, and kind of creating more havoc with just regular people in Gotham. Kind of portraying Batman to be this bad guy, like he's just running around beating up random people. And it's kind of his whole stick. He does have this scene with his like his first in command, and the guy's like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "Well, I want to create this chaos and help the Fear State." And he's like, he's kind of like the chaos is like the main part of the goal kind of thing. They do jump back over to Harley, and her being chased by the bear and everything, and eventually it gets to the point where the bear has them cornered, and they are falling off a cliff, and her and Waffles are hanging off the side of the cliff, and she eventually is saved. by the gardener, and I want to say, at first it's just a bunch of cool looking vines that look like dragons and stuff like that, but we do see that it's the gardener, and she comes and tells Harley that it's time to stop playing, and they need to get back to what they were dealing with. I'm pretty sure to go catch up with Molly and the Insanity Collective back with Queen Ivy. And we do know that we've already seen that Gardner and Holly are on their way to Ivy Town to try and find the other half of Poison Ivy. But Harley Quinn issue number 7, another great issue. I'm so glad the artist is back. I fell in love with that art. I understand that a lot of people didn't like that art, but it grew on me. I want to say about the 3rd issue. Next up, another Fear State book. I went ahead and knocked both of them out. Detective Comics 1043. Kind of in the mix of all this with the Fear State going on and Scarecrow causing all this trouble, and the Magistrate trying to, recoup on all its mistakes that have happened recently with Peacemaker 1 running around all crazy and killing people. But they do start out the scene with these 2 guys that are working for the Magistrate, and it's basically this conversation about fungus and how certain types of fungus grow and survive using other species as a host, so it can move around without actually having any legs or anything like that. But it kind of pertains to the end of the story. They jump back over to Mayor Namako. I always have a problem reading his name, but we jump back over to the mayor, and he is having a conversation with Simon Saint and the magistrate, and the magistrate's still trying to gain that ultimate force over Gotham, and at this point the mayor is really struggling to do so with all the different PR mistakes and problem that the magistrate and Simon Industries have been plaguing, and he basically puts his foot down and he's like, look, we're going to have to, on a councilman and political standpoint, that we're going to have to investigate more into the magistrate before we just give you all full, authority. And we do see behind the scenes that Simon is going to go through that anyways. They do part ways. Mayor Nako, I think I read it Mayor Nako. I think it's easier that way. And there's no, I'm bad with names, so there's no disrespect. But we do see that one of the mayor's security team, after Simon Saint and his crew leaves, enters the room, states that he is King Nero the 29th, and it is time for the mayor to die, and it's basically this assassination attempt. He does automatically start firing on the mayor taking cover and eventually slipping into this hidden trap door that is behind his desk, which leads out to kind of like the lower levels of the council building that he was in. But we find out that it is not just the king, this King Nero 29, that is trying to assassinate him, but all of Mayor Nayako, all his security team is working for this king, and they are trying to assassinate the mayor. Basically, at this point, the magistrate is trying to, deal with the forces, and they're not doing so well. Batman does show up, and he starts attacking all of these would-be assassins, and they all go down pretty quickly. And I love some of these scenes because as Batman is taking out some of these security detail, like he is asking them who they're working for, but basically like being able to have regular conversation as he's taking these guys down with brutal force. But eventually it's all kind of the same information about like that they are just trying to assassinate the mayor, that he's got to die, that kind of thing. In the mix of everything, while he's taking them down, they do manage to grab the mayor, put him in a van, and take off. Of course, Batman ensues the pursuit on a bike, but we quickly see that it's not needed because Mayor takes matters into his own hand and end up crashing the vehicle. The last part we see of him is the crashed vehicle, and both the driver and the mayor come out of alive, but the mayor is kind of creeping out of the van, and we do see gunshots in his direction. Simon Saint, kind of like on the other hand, hearing all this and trying to get the magistrate to protect the mayor because they don't want any more debacles, that kind of thing. Eventually, like, while the guy was trying to assassinate the mayor does slip away and he manages to fall into the sewers, shown here. And eventually Batman does start fighting with the driver that is in the crashed car and everything. Eventually the guy does pull a grenade on Batman, sending him, Batman does grab it, but then in the mix of everything he tries to like throw it away, and it ends up hitting something and falling into the sewer where the mayor just fell. So Batman dives down, grabs the mayor, and kind of throws him in his cape for to try and take the blunt of the explosion. We do see that most of Batman's cape and outer layers of the Kevlar are kind of messed up. Namco getting in, Mayor Nyanko. I'm having such a problem with it. But we do see that it gets separated. Batman, going in one direction and the mayor going another direction, and it's dark. They do mention that they have fallen into some lower level of the sewer system in Gotham, and Batman is not well versed with this lower level. As the mayor is stumbling around, he does end up finding this kind of egg infestation, it looks like, and they do say that it says something about next vile spawn. Well, of course, we just ran through vile and we saw that his eggs were escaping into the sewers, so I want to have to say this is more vile stuff that we're coming across. It also goes into that whole story about the fungus moving around without physically moving, using different hosts, kind of thing. Alright, so the side story is the road to Task Force Z, and it's basically the end of that story, with the reporter Deborah and Red Hood being attacked and by this kind of like anti-vigilante looking group. Batman does show up to assist the group. Of course, the police show up in the kind of alteration, and they tell everybody that they're going to start shooting. We see that Batman does grab Debbie, takes her off on a rooftop, basically for safety, and he has this conversation with her, telling her to not write the article that a lot of those people that stay dead, are the reason they are vanishing, plus that he's trying to find out, who is behind it all, and she's kind of making his job more, a lot more difficult if it's public, kind of thing. And we eventually see that Batman does kind of take off after the police warn them that they're going to start opening fire on both sets of people, and Red Hood kind of, he sticks around trying to get the information from the guys, asking who they work for and what's their plans. And at the very last second, the guy that Red Hood was, asking without him paying attention, he does set off a flashbang that it causes the Red Hood to go unconscious. The guy that he was fighting, he is, demands from the police or telling him to stand down, that kind of stuff. And we do see that he is working for the FBI, and his target all along was Red Hood. They jump back over to a scene where they have shown that Deborah has made it public about the whole, everybody disappearing, all the bodies, and her and the investigation that Red Hood had, and Batman getting involved, all that kind of stuff. And then we see another scene with the mayor and kind of a secret associate that they don't name, and even the mayor asks for his name and he doesn't get it either, but it's this conversation about how that it has been made public and that's okay, that their plans are still going to be moving forward, and they are talking about the Task Force Z section of it. Next, they jet over to a scene with Red Hood, basically waking him up, explaining that he is not captured. They release his chains, he's not imprisoned or anything like that, and basically asking him, telling him that he is there for a job interview and asking him to lead the Task Force C, and they show the other members. Of course, they've been advertising the heck out of everybody. But we got Mr. Bloom, Sundowner, Man-Bat, Arkham Knight, Bane, and Red Hood will be in the Task Force Z. All the other members besides Red Hood recently have died. So it's going to be like this mystery on why they were brought back to life, why they're being used, that kind of good stuff. But another good issue, amazing art, Fear State moving on. Alright, so a big read, and one of the best reads of the week so far. Boom Studios, Something is Killing the Children, issue number 20. Man, you talk about stepping up game. They stepped up story, art, everything. This issue, out of all the issues I've read, is probably the best. But so we'll get into it. So Erica has recently been, she has had to undergo the trials to become, one of the hunters in the House of Slaughter. She had to use her friend Octo, which was the monster that was put inside the, her stuffed animal octopus. Once they, the House of Slaughter set up the orientation and everything, and they released the monster, they realized that it was a much higher and dangerous monster than that they were aware of, and basically they kind of already typecast Jessica, or not Jessica, Erica, I'm sorry, but Erica stating that that she probably wouldn't pass the trial, that most hunters, at an established level can't handle a monster on that level. And that's kind of where the comic takes place. We catch up with Jessica, and I'm drawing a blank at his name, but basically other members of the House of Slaughter, and if I do run across his name while I'm seeing this, but Jessica's chat, because she's drunk, she's kind of freaking out. She was attached to Erica, not like too much, but at the point where she was caring for the girl and she didn't want her to die, kind of thing. I will have to say, one of the more confusing things, I always forget that they do the panels this way, and it took me like 2 or 3 pages to remember that. I kept reading it out of order, and I was like, what is this? It's basically this whole situation where Jess is really freaking out, and they really don't believe that Erica's going to make it out of it. Eventually, we do get other members of the House of Slaughter, like Cecilia, I think her name is, and her progeny. They show up, and they're all basically there to witness this this epic failure that has that they think is going to happen. Eventually, Erica's friend, and kind of the one she meets off the get-go, and I'm drawing a blank at his name too, I'm sorry, but he's the only one that kind of sticks up for Erica. He believes that she's going to make it out of it. He's kind of against them for doubting, and they kind of lay it down in another sense that, like the guy here, he kind of tells him, and I think his name is Aaron, but he tells Aaron that that he doesn't understand the level of the threat that Erica is having to go up, and that's why the doubt from all the House of Slaughter is there. It's just they've never seen it done before, and by surprise, we already seen from the last issue that she made it and was being guided by the dogs. But of course, she shows up, and everybody is amazingly surprised, and it gives her a lot of praise, and a lot of them think it's just basically on a kind of astounded. She even gets praise from Cecilia, the one that's kind of mean and everything, but everybody is kind of blown away by her, her surviving this ordeal. But they basically explain that they are going to move through with the celebration. There's going to be a big party. She has to go through the next steps, which the next step is getting her tattoo. She gets to pick the place where this symbol right here is going to go on her body. I think she does pick like her right arm, where it's visible, without the shirt, kind of thing. There is this great conversation. Basically right here, and it's one of the most important conversations into the House of Slaughter, because he explains the tattoo, how everybody has one, and then he goes into all the different masks. how she will achieve the teeth as she kills monsters, you know. But and they kind of I love how they do this, but because we've already caught up with current badass Erica, and they kind of show her, oh, in the future, you know, you're going to do this and this, and I have high hopes for you, and this kind of thing. But he does explain the other masks, the 6 other masks that exist in the house. I'm going to show you this real quick, and then I'm going to kind of look at it myself to use for reference. But we do have the crimson mask, the scarlet masks, and these scarlet masks are basically the bookkeepers, the scribes. They are also known as the servants. Then we have the black mask, which Erica is a part of, and they are basically the Swiss Army tool of the House of Slaughter. They are the lead hunters. Then we have the white mask, which we've seen Cecilia is a member of, and the white mask are pack hunters. They take out the more big monsters, but they do it as a group. Next we have the silver mask, and the silver mask are more, they hunt the more mythical and folklorish monsters that are out there, i.e. maybe werewolves and vampires. Last but not least, but the most formidable and the most scary versions of the mask are the emerald mask, and they specifically only hunt dragons. There are other bits and pieces of information added to the different masks, as far as like the white mask, that they do hunt bigger targets, so they do talk more shit because they take down bigger monsters, but at the same time, if one of them was to be caught alone, they'd probably be taken down by lesser monster than most are capable of, because they are such big pack hunters. But I did forget one, but it is the Azure mask, which is the blue masks, and they're kind of the weapons forgers and tech part of the House of Slaughter. Of course, the guy that's giving her the tattoo is a blue mask, and he just kind of states that now that they're in that technological age, it's how they make like news reports and stuff like that vanish from the news, keep everybody's information from the police, that kind of thing. But basically 6 different groups of masks. I got so excited talking about the cooler masks. And same thing with Erica when she hears all this, especially the emerald, you know, the emerald mask. She wants to see a dragon, and he does state that on this night she is going to meet her first dragon, and we've already met this dragon. He is the you know, the high leader of the, I don't know, I forget his, I think they call him like the grandfather of the House of Slaughters, but don't quote me. But he basically takes a Polaroid picture, puts her name up on the wall, you know, gives her well wishes and stuff like that, and sends her on her way. They do show that Cecilia comes and gets her, and it is for that you know, that meeting with the dragon. And it is a wonderful, scary, eerie conversation that goes on between Erica and the dragon, and it is basically that you know, he asked her if she knows why, you know, she is special, how, you know, how she specifically made it out of that task of defeating that you know, incredible monster kind of thing. And she basically explains that she doesn't know why, that she doesn't really feel any special, that kind of thing. And he explains it's because she's kind of you know, mean and bad, and she just states that she's not, that, you know, she just has a different look. You know, maybe she grew up differently, and he kind of paints this picture of, you know, well, you know, maybe you just weren't understood, and, you know, maybe there were those moments where you know, your parents were confused and felt like you were different from other children. And she was like, nah, I wasn't really like that, you know, I didn't really have that kind of a childhood. He still explains, regardless of how she feels, you know, her childhood was, explains that she is a different breed of a person, and he has high hopes for her, basically. After that, she does get to catch up with Jesse, and you know, she kind of talks about everything. You know, Erica talks, you know, with Jesse about everything that's going down, stating that she wasn't a big fan of the dragon kind of thing. But basically, you know, just stating that, you know, she's going to be the best of, you know, hopefully the best of what they've seen so far in the House of Slaughter. And that's kind of where it leaves us off at. they do give us the next chapter into the, something is killing the children, which is going to be the House of Slaughter. And I think it's going to be a story that follows Aaron. It might switch over, but basically it's here, and this is the modern version of it, But it's basically this quick story of him hunting, and he's not really a hunter, and he's not doing that good a job. But they do show that it kind of juts back like into 15 years earlier when he was hunting. I think that's what it says. Yeah, 15 years earlier. And they do give us this little like kind of where he's goofy and not so good at hunting, and eventually he gets knocked out by what looks like a group of 3 individuals, and that's kind of where they leave it at. It's a very quick, small preview to the House of Slaughter, but it looks really good, and what an amazing issue. I highly suggest, and I know everybody is, but if you are not reading Something is Killing the Children, the end of it got really good, and I can't wait for what's coming more. Last but not least, but we got Berserker, issue number 5, another great story, great art, Matt Kent, Keanu Reeves, and we are kind of jumping off the what happened in the last issue. They are steadily trying to gain access into Berserker's memories. I'm drawing a blank at his real name. It's something like Arner or Erler. But basically, the therapist or what have you, the lady who is deciphering all his memories and stuff, she goes to his house or maybe I think it's his house, but she basically tells him that she wants to connect on a more personal level, that she's not really seeing the results, trying to dissect his mind. So maybe it's time to actually have a conversation with the man, and they drink and they talk about music, and he has this great conversation. I love this piece right here, but he has this being immortal, he's seen all these different forms and variations of music along the years, and basically summing it up that no matter how you look at it and how it sounds, it all equals out the same thing, that humans are always looking to connect and make the connection, and those questions, why, what, when, but eventually she kind of starts getting into the topic of love, and if he had ever loved before, and this and that. And the story goes back into this, that he had loved and that he didn't want to really talk about it at the moment. They jump back over to the next day, and she is saying that she has had a breakthrough after their night of connecting in person kind of thing, and she wants to try something completely different. She gives him a different drink, and she hooks him up to a brand new machine. He even states that she was busy from the last time that they, constructing this massive machine, and basically she tells him that this new machine is going to be able to map his his cognitive memory and his neurotic memory a little better, so they can kind of figure out what they're trying to figure out, his immortality thing. And basically it's like he's telling the story of how he loved, and saying that the first woman that he did love was the hardest to lose, of course, with his immortality. They do show a common theme throughout all these different love stories that he shares with us, but basically that he does find someone, falls in love with them, impregnates them, the baby eventually dies, and eventually for some reason, one way or another, and that society gets mad at him and eventually kills him in the most brutal fashion possible. And it kind of just starts that way in the beginning, but it does show, and he tries, like they show, different cultures, different races, but he has loved, like, throughout the years, and he's tried the same things, and it always failed. That he tried, and it's more along the lines of, what are the 3 main things we're here for, right? And it's like, living, procreation, and seeding the earth kind of thing. And him stating that he doesn't really fit into those criteria of what a person is, so he's kind of, he has that disconnect on why he's really there. Is he just this weapon that was presented by the gods, and that's kind of it. eventually, and through all this talking and about all the love that he has lost and his life that has moved on from all these moments, eventually he starts getting enraged and pissed off. And through his rage and he eventually destroys the machine that he was all hooked up to. The story does jump over to this other scene. They do confirm that he's okay, and of course we know he's okay, but it does jump over to this other scene where I'm assuming, we see our man, and he is on a submarine, and they are on their way to another assignment. They do show that the doctor and another doctor is with him, and she just states that they have made major breakthroughs